Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to the Mindshare Podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at industrysyndicate.com and mindshare101.com. This week's episode is sponsored by Kits Keep in Touch Systems. This is episode 41. He is a husband and father of 3 kids. He is a music and health enthusiast. He has been an end-of-year finalist for 5 years in a row for Canada Swanapeol Power 200. He has for years been repeatedly named in the Inman Most Influential Top 40 under 40, although he only actually is 40 right now. This guy landed the largest deal by valuation in the history of the Dragon's Den TV show. He has partnered with Barbara Corcoran from another TV show called Shark Tank, and to date, he has done $150 million in sales. Hanging out with us today on the Mindshare Podcast is the CEO and founder of Real Estate Webmasters, the world's largest custom development shop specific to real estate, Mr. Morgan Carey. Thank you so much for being here, my man.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's going on, buddy? Thank you for making the time today, man.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
So, although I can't actually see or speak to most of the amazing people that are tuning into this podcast, I am going to say that most everyone tuned in is working at their sort of next level in life, or they're sort of just, they know that it's just a matter of time and they got to keep that fire burning. So that is definitely my goal each week, is to help people keep pushing through on that stuff. But I want to help people build even more mindshare so they can ultimately work easier, spend less, make a whole lot more, and, well, just bottom line, enjoy life. So everyone out there is grinding, and Morgan, you're no stranger to that. So back before all of those cool things that I just mentioned happen in your life, what is the actual background of Morgan Carey, like sort of before today?
Well, so I grew up on Vancouver Island. It's where I live. I've never lived really anywhere else other than studying over in Italy for a while in university. I live in a small town called Nanaimo. It used to be a pretty tough town. And, I grew up kind of hard and was a young dad. I had my son at 15. So I realized I needed to grow up pretty quickly and get my act together. And so put myself through university and decided I probably wasn't cut out to have a boss. And so I got into
I know what you mean there.
I got into entrepreneurship early. My history with the internet actually goes back. I was the very first SEO guy. So I founded SEOguy.com, was a senior moderator of SEO Chat. And I made my first sort of claims on, I was one of the top lead generators for the University of Phoenix back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I worked for companies like Google, Adobe, Digital River. And I just had an affinity for search engines. And so that's sort of, I became the guy, and it was the right place and the right time, because really search engines like Google was just coming out.
Yeah.
And so I got to be there, and I love math. I love algorithms. I love, reverse engineering things that people build. And so I just happened to really fall in love with search engines early, and it was just good timing.
So that's really what it was just basically being involved in that SEO type of world, like at the really early onset, because of the sort of need to kind of get in there and just get working at stuff based on family and personal things.
Exactly. I had 2 kids. I had my brother at home as well. My mom wasn't she's legally blind, and she was a street musician. And so she probably wasn't the best option to take care of my little brother. So I had my son and my little brother. So being at home and working from home was pretty important. So the computer sort of gave me the opportunity to do that.
Interesting. And so then you go from there. And that's like anything else in life. And you sort of use the word kind of fortunate to be able to fall into it. But like anything in life, there's a lot of grind and a lot of hustle that has to come out of things. Like, it's not like things just happen because we know it or because we want it. But did you know as you got into that, or did it happen at some point where you kind of, and I guess where I'm going with this is like, we need to have a path. We need to know where we're going. And I've used this analogy so many times before, but getting in the car with no destination and a blindfold on, where do you expect to go? Right. Did you yourself like have this pathway where you just, you were slugging it through, put it in perspective, anyone listening, like, what kind of things were you doing to get to that next level or to your next level? Where were the struggles? I mean, shit, are those struggles that you were facing back then, are they the same ones you're going through today in terms of running and growing a business?
Yeah. I would say, the differentiator. Well, let's answer your first question. Did I know I was going to be where I am today in terms of what I'm doing and in real estate? Absolutely not. Right. I
No,
knew
but did
that.
you have the path to get there?
No, I mean, I
Oh,
had, so let's say I'm 20 years old, because we're going back 20 years now. Um, I knew I wanted to be successful. I knew, growing up as a street kid, you kind of want to prove everybody wrong. So I had that bit of a chip on my shoulder. I knew I wanted to be successful. I knew I wanted my kids to be proud of me. And so I've always known I was going to be a successful entrepreneur, but I didn't know exactly how to get there. And so when this internet thing came around, and I gravitated towards my talents, right? The math, the marketing, the conversion. I understood it all. And so what I figured out very early is to lean into your opportunities, right? Um, so I did really well as an SEO consultant, and I probably thought back then in my first year I was going to just be the world's best SEO consultant, right? I was gonna be the guy. But what I learned through that experience is that when you build persona, when you build a business around your individual brand, you can't scale, because it didn't matter how much I increased my hourly rate. I probably started at $50 an hour US, went to 100, went to 200, went to 500, went to 1,000, and I was always booked. But
right.
that's still not the levels I wanted to achieve, and nobody else wanted to hire my team. I had a team, right? They worked behind me, but when it came to showing up in the meetings, being on stage, I built my entire brand around myself. And so I was boxed in because my limit was my own personal time, because everyone was only willing to pay the high dollars for my time. And so feeling that pressure in the first couple of years of wanting to grow more than I could spend my own time on, like I was working 16, 20 hours a day, right? Um,
I know what that's like.
right, exactly. And that's,
Totally,
I
man.
think that's one of the first struggles is understanding that in the early days, and I've actually got this in my office. It's a poster, and it says something to the effect of: entrepreneurs are willing to work like nobody else will in the beginning, so that they can live like nobody else can.
Right.
Right. Um, so I felt those pressures, and I knew I needed to adjust, because there was no winning. I couldn't get myself any more time in the day.
Right.
Right. And I knew that my hourly rate was capped at some point to something. Right. Um, and so what I started doing was I started building my own assets. I looked at myself and I said, okay, where are my strengths? Why are other people paying me to do this? Right. And it was because I was really great at SEO. I said, why don't I do this for myself? Because obviously, if they can afford to pay me, they must be making more money than they're paying me. And so I looked at niche marketing. I had done really well in a bunch of verticals, and I chose education. And so I built my own assets. I learned how to build websites. I hired copywriters and whatnot, and I went after the education industry, and I became one of the largest affiliates for the University of Phoenix. So we helped put them on the map. And I made a hell of a lot more money doing my own stuff than I ever did consulting. And the company at the time that was managing their leads came to me and said, you know what, man, we're tired of paying you so much money. We want to buy you out. And so,
Cool.
that was never the intention. I'm sitting in Nanaimo getting paid for leads, right? And
Right.
so I'm going, I could do this forever now, right? Just scale this. But when they came and offered me a check, I mean, I got my first house paid for, my first brand new car, my first everything, and I did what a lot of people would hopefully do if they run into some money, and I invested it in real estate, and I became really passionate about real estate. And I said, well, cool, that was a lot of fun. I want to do that again. But I had a non-compete for 5 years in education, right? Because when somebody buys out your assets in your company like that,
Of course.
it's going to come with a non-compete. And so I said, well, okay, what's my next vertical? And so I said, well, shit, I did it in education. I'm going to do it everywhere else. So I bought, mortgage webmasters, law webmasters, like plastic surgery webmasters. I looked at all of the verticals that were spending lots of money on marketing on the internet, right? And I was going to become a niche marketing guy for all of those. And of course, real estate was one of them. I already had some real estate customers who were paying me like 10 grand a month on the SEO side for SEO guy. Cool. And that was, 2001, 2002 kind of thing. And I said, well, I really like real estate. I'm interested in it. And And so I'll start with real estate. And I started there and I never left because it's a big, big market and there's a lot to do.
So you've actually been playing in the real estate vertical since 01, 02.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And that's well before our social medias did any, I mean, Facebook's 06, 07, right?
Yeah. Interestingly, so because of my background with SEO Guy used to be a massive forum as well, right? And I was also one of the founders of SEO Chat. So building online communities like vBulletin and PHPBB communities, that was one of the ways I built my business in the beginning. And so when I decided to get into the real estate vertical, the first company was actually called realestateoptimization.com, not realestatewebmasters.com. Real Estate Webmasters, I bought and I opened up as a forum. It was just a chat. It was a place where a lot of my customers could go and teach me about real estate, and I could teach them about marketing and about conversion and things of that. And so it was this positive virtual flywheel where we helped each other's business grow. Right, I learned about them and their businesses, and they learned from me about how to market stuff. And one of the things that I ran into in real estate back then, which was quite different than what I was used to. Because remember, I used to work for University of Phoenix and Adobe and eBay and companies that had big tech teams and designers and stuff. In real estate, these people were very successful, but they didn't have a web designer or a programmer or a writer or anything. And the products they had available at the time were just crap. They weren't SEO friendly. Like we're talking like Advanced Access and Point 2 Agent and, Number One Expert and all these platforms way back in the day. And so I went to those companies. I said, listen, I'm working with some of your top customers and I really need you to make some changes to your platform because it's not very SEO friendly. And I'd love to be able to work with more of your customers. And they all said, well, we're very successful and we don't know who you are. And so we're not going to change anything because we don't need your help.
Which is a normal response most people get when something like that goes down, right?
Right, yeah, because they're big companies.
So that was the big question now, right?
Right, yeah, because, Dominion, for instance, who owned Advanced Access at the time, they had 50,000 customers. They don't care about me and what I need for a few of their customers. They don't want to change their framework for me. I get it. Little guys are always asking big guys for changes or for opportunities or whatever. And so that kind of forced me to bring a lot of the stuff I needed in-house, bring in design, bring in, CRM and stuff like that, because I just couldn't work with what was out there. It wasn't good enough for my customers. It wasn't good enough to give us the results. And so I realized I should probably change the name because real estate optimization, the plan originally was to just do SEO. We were just going to do the optimization. But once we brought in all these other services, that name no longer described what we did anymore. And so I said, well, I already have Real Estate Webmasters online and it's a good name. It describes what we do. And so April 9th, 2004, we reincorporated as Real Estate Webmasters. So this particular brand has been alive since 2004.
So from there then, so you're going through and I mean, you're doing the SEO stuff, you're growing a biz, you're still, slugging it out like everybody else does, trying to grow something. We're going after kind of maybe the bigger people or asking questions, learning from a lot of people. You get to this point now with REW. And I want to circle back on REW in a moment, but what I want to do is fast forward on that front now and kind of go, you went from 04 to essentially, getting to this point where you've been nominated for Swanapeol now, 5 years in a row for the Power 200. That's impressive, man. Like that's some really impressive stuff. So I guess just real quickly on even that front for anybody listening, what is that list all about? Like, what does it represent? What does it take for people to get nominated, or how did you get nominated? And we just kind of heard the background up until 04 to where this whole REW thing started.
Yeah. So the Swanapeol 200 is put on by T3. Stefan Swanapeol is arguably the most prominent consultant to franchises, brokerages, to the industry. Really, he mentors the top CEOs. He runs a great event, the T3 Summit. And so what they do is they get together, Stefan and Jack Miller, who's the CTO of Century 21 Canada as well, and a bunch of other just highly touted consultants. And they ask the question, who are the most powerful people in residential real estate? That's the criteria. And the list it's fundamentally populated by people you would expect. The CEOs of Keller Williams and Remax and Compass, et cetera. It's almost all real estate executives. And so I feel quite privileged to even be considered as a technologist because obviously it takes a different kind of influencer, a different kind of trajectory in order to impact the residential real estate market. But I think, we have a couple of distinct advantages in terms of being considered for the list. We're the largest custom vendor in the world. But myself personally, I own 100% of our EW, which is unique. Most of the other big brands, and there's not very many big brands in real estate technology, are owned by VCs. They've got tons of investors. They've got lots of partners. There's no guy. There's no one person
Right.
who's kind of driving or influencing. It's a group. It's an investment group, whatever. I own 100% of our EW. And so fundamentally, all the credit goes to my team for building us to where we are. But just like most press and most industries, they want to pick someone. They want the stage guy. They want they want someone to represent the company. So I think because of our size and our scale and because of the impact we've had on so many businesses, I think that's why we get considered.
And again, very impressive. And I mean, I am personally familiar with the list. I know about it. I understand it. But I think there's a lot of people that may have heard about it, don't know. But yeah, when you look at it, there's a lot of the CEOs, a lot of those people, and something you just touched on, which I know the first time I heard, and this is probably the first time I'm actually telling you this, but I was shocked when I heard that you were 100% owned by essentially you, as opposed to having the VCs. And again, very impressive, because when we do look at a lot of these companies, and you and I both, we do go down and we do travel this continent when it comes to these industries and the circle that we run in. Most of those companies are owned by VCs. There's a lot of people backing it. There is no one specific person. And even more importantly, I think, and it's not to knock what other people's business models are or whatnot, but when there's not that one individual who is bought into the actual brand and the growth of the company and really wears it, sort of right there in the heart or on the sleeve, you don't necessarily get that TLC for the end user being the actual customer.
Right.
And so I'd probably go out on a limb here and say that the fact that, again, there is nobody else but, let's say, yourself outside of the team. And I think that was big that you recognize them, right? But outside of that, I think that's probably what has led to the growth and the success of the business, is that you're there. So, I mean, that to me is just an impressive thing. So even that, you roll in like Inman Most Influential Top 40 under 40, and you're only 40 now, right? You've been on that list a number of years in a row. And I mean, that is a real cool one. But let's look at this and say, like, that's what I call a good news story. Right. And when I was looking at this, I say to my clients a lot of the time, all the realtors out there and everybody listening, you want to take good news stories. You want to share those back out to the world. You want the world to know, what do other people think about you? And it's doing it in the right way with the right flavor, the right taste. But these are some big accolades. What did you do, and how, again, thinking about the people that are listening to this and watching this, what did you do to be able to leverage those really good news stories to help build your brand? How did you go about that? What did you do something with them? I imagine you did.
Yeah. I think it's funny. If you go back to what I used to teach in SEO, and I still teach in SEO, is that people fundamentally, a lot of people are wired the same way, right? They understand that they need to create something interesting, right? And so they continually try to create something interesting, whether it's press, whether it's an application, whether it's a tool, it doesn't matter. They spend a lot of effort thinking about that thing and then making that thing. But what they don't understand is that the real trick to promotion is you need to spend 4 times as much. It's an 80-20 rule. 4 times as much time promoting the thing as you did building it, right? Yeah. And they're not wired like that, right? Because their idea takes so much energy and so much effort and maybe so much cost that they're like, okay, we've built it. Now, if we've built it, they will come. That's bullshit. Right. That's not going to happen, right? It takes so much effort to get to the point where you have something that's worth talking about. But it takes 4 times as much effort, or you should put 4 times as much effort into it, promoting it, right? And that's what people don't get. They don't get it because they feel like by the time they finish the application or earned the accolade or done whatever they need to do, they think they're done. They're exhausted.
Yeah, no way.
They're not done. That's just to get to the starting line, right? And so absolutely, when it comes to Dragon's Den and these lists and things of this nature, it took me almost 15 years to get on the Swanapeol 200 list, right? That is not an overnight success thing. That is an almost impossible thing to do.
Well, what do they say? It takes 10 years to become an overnight success, right?
Exactly, right? So to get on that list and not do anything with it would be insane.
Absolutely.
Right? And so we doesn't matter what the accolade is. If And I'm not talking about the bullshit ones where you can buy your way in, or because you can't do that here. But if you truly earn something, and it doesn't necessarily need to be Swanapeol, whatever the level is for your business at that time, you need to sit down with your team or yourself, depending on what size you are, and strategize, who are the people this matters to? Where are they? How can I reach them? So specifically, for instance, in the Swanapeol case, they have a bunch of publications, for instance, and the readership of those publications are the same people who are on the list and the same people who I want to reach. And so, yeah, it costs me some money, but I buy some advertisement there, right? Those things, I didn't buy advertisement to get on the list. You can't do that.
Right.
But I'm smart enough to realize that their readership is the same readership that's seeing me on that thing, and respecting the fact that I'm on there. So I'm buying ads on the Swanapeol publications. I'm attending and making sure my highest level team members are attending their events. I'm building visibility. I'm campaigning to try to get myself on stage, right? And again, you can't buy your way on stage. That event doesn't even allow sponsors.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You have to earn your spot there by having something truly, topical, valuable to their membership, etc. And I'd love to say that I'm on that stage every year, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Because they only pick the best of the best every year, and they make sure that they make sure that content is relevant and valuable, etc. So it might take me every 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years to have something good enough and topical enough to earn my spot back on that stage, right? So it's hard. It's hard work. I hire Stefan, right?
Yeah,
because through the process, I've gotten to know how much people respect him, and I hire him as a mentor and a consultant. Again, not because I'm trying to buy my way into anything, because I know that's impossible. I know he has integrity, but because I want to learn what makes people respect him, so that I can build some of those things into my portfolio, right? I want his, he's a lot older than I am, and he's been in the industry a lot longer than I have. I want his insight. I already know that in order for him to get the position he has had to go through some stuff and learn some serious things, and he's brilliant, right? So all of those things take time. Some of them take money. Some of them you fail at. I'd like to get on the T3 stage next year and tell my story again, but I can't, right? I can't buy my way in, right? But I'm still going to try. I'm still going to, if there is something that matches up with their content delivery, I know how important it is. So all the stuff I was just talking about comes after the list. And that's just one example, right?
Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. So that's the idea, right? Is that people need to understand, put all of the effort. And it's funny because I know we're talking to a lot of real estate agents and a lot of brokers and whatnot. It's identical with platform adoption, right? They're like, well, we spent $100,000 or $1 million or 10 million or whatever on this platform. Agents are just going to use it. Absolutely not. If you spent a year or 2 building a platform, you should spend 3 or 4 teaching them how to use it and making them successful, right? They don't want to do that part. It's the same thing. The adoption, the training, that's the hard stuff, and that's the good stuff. And it's that same 80-20 rule, right? Spend 4 times as much.
Well, see, it's interesting the things you said there, because first I boil all that down, and that's really what Mindshare is all about. It's getting out there using a cross-channel approach to get that message out there. And whether it be in person, whether it be through buying advertisements or organically pushing things out there through word of mouth. There's a multitude of ways to do that, to get that mindshare out there. That's exactly what you're doing with it, though. Once you get those good accolades, it's not just going, hey, look at us, let's go sit on a beach somewhere, but it's what can we do to strategize, and thinking about the value of the people that are looking at that and the value it's going to bring to those people. And I think that one of the biggest challenges that we see with realtors is a thing around time management, systematization, those types of things. And I think that, being the business that it is, the fact that somebody can go and sell a home, depending on the home they sell, and it doesn't happen in all cases, but there's a big ticket item essentially being sold there. There's a bunch of money to be made. It allows for people to be complacent.
It does, yeah.
And once people become complacent, they look and say, well, I'm good. I can wait till the next one. And the next one, when it comes, I'll deal with that.
Yeah.
Totally opposite of what you just said there, because now it's like, hey, you worked your tail off to go and get to where you are. You just got that. Wonderful. Take that and work 4 times harder now to let people know that it happened and try to get to that next level of growth.
Yeah.
And the
It's
unfortunate
funny
thing,
because I've never put it in the context of a listing, but yeah, if you think about how hard it is to get a listing,
right?
why the hell are you not promoting that 4 times as
Right.
much that you sold it?
Right. And that's the thing.
Right?
And it's how do you go about it, and what channels are you using? And I mean, another thing you mentioned there, like with Stefan, of
Yeah.
learning from him. Forget about anything that has to do with anything. And I love the way you clarified that. I'm not trying to buy my way somewhere. I'm trying to learn.
Yeah.
Dude, that's something that I've done for years. A lot of my friends are older than I am. And there's a reason. I mean, A, good people, but B, you get to learn, right? And I mean, one of the biggest messages I'm trying to deliver to folks within the whole mind share concept and everything else is, we've got to take some of the old school, mix it with the new school. And the old dogs need to understand they got to mix some of that new stuff in.
Yeah.
The new people need to understand these people have survived and are still here for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. So that you got to find that balance of bringing it all together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I try to do a lot of similar stuff there with learning from the folks that have been down that road. How can I leverage that? And it's the same message I'm delivering to anybody listening right now is try to see who's there, who's a mentor, who can you learn from? What examples can you take from what people have done in the past and shape them and mold them to maybe fit for you?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So interesting stuff you just mentioned, but I guess the big thing there being, you work your tail off to get there. You got to work 4 times harder to keep going with it. So then you also brought up Dragon's Den. And I know largest deal in history, largest deal in terms of valuation in Dragon's Den history.
Both actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So largest offer, largest deal, largest valuation. So
when was this? How long ago was that?
4 or 5 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe
something. What were you pitching?
Real estate webmasters.
Okay. So you went in with the actual real estate webmasters and said, hey, this is what I do. This is who I am.
Yeah. So it was, that one was not intentional in the sense of I didn't say we're going to go on Dragon's Den. What happened was I saw that Dragon's Den was interviewing in Nanaimo where I live, right? I wouldn't have gone out of my way for it because I just didn't connect the two because I thought we were too big of a business at that point. Like, when I applied to be a dragon on Dragons or be on Dragon's Den, my net worth was higher than 3 of the dragons at the time on the show. So it's not like they don't generally take big businesses. It's not normally what you see, right? But then I think it was probably like one of my programmers, like Andy or Mike or something, said, you know what, you should go on that. You should go try that. And it sounded like fun. And I was, it's an afternoon. Why not? Check it out. See what it's about. You're curious, right? And so I went down there and I decided to pitch them. And they asked me a couple of questions that I think, so the way it works on Dragon's Den is before you ever get to the show, they send out mock judges, not the real ones, right? These people are producers and each one of them has to pretend like they're one of the personas, right?
Now, are you on the set during this or they're coming to your office for this stuff?
Yeah, well, they go to, like in our case, it was at the conference center.
Okay.
Right, so the Nanaimo Conference Center, right? So you go down, they've got 4 or 5 people pretending to be judges. One's a jerk, one's really friendly, one's the marketing guy. You know what I mean?
They're playing the roles.
Exactly, but they're all very smart. And, for me, I went in and I said, this is what we do. We bring great ROI to real estate agents and brokers and whatnot. And they said, well, you're just doing this for publicity. Do you actually, why would you want an investor? Why would you, And at the time, I think we were just sub of 10 million a year. And they said, are you actually serious about this? And I said, well, yeah. And they said, why? I said, have you ever taken a company from 100 employees to 1,000? And they said, no. And I said, neither have I, but some of these presidents have. And that, I believe, is what got us on the show, is that I believe fundamentally, I have a lot of confidence in my own abilities to scale, but I also value, to your point about listening to the people who have already done it, I value input, I value mentorship, and I value connections. Quite frankly, if someone's got an in and they have money as well, they're going to get you there a lot faster. I'm no fool,
of course.
Right? And so, so they put us on the show. I walked out and my pitch was simple. I brought a giant check and I asked one of the dragons to give me some money. I think they gave me 10 grand or something like that. And we wrote that, we pretended 2 minutes had gone by, and then I wrote a $50,000 number or something. And I just said, you just invested $10,000 with Real Estate Webmasters. You waited a year and you got $50,000 back. That's what we do for real estate agents, and that's why people hire us. And there was 3 offers. We got one offer that was for no equity. So the first offer was $2 million, which was our ask at the time. We were asking for a $50 million valuation. And we're, again, sub 10. So we're more than 5X on our valuation on top line, not on EBITDA. which really you can only do in software, right? You're not going to get, I mean, brokerages, they trade at, 2 or 3 times EBITDA. We trade at top line. So if you're $100 million in revenue, you're going to be $1 billion company, right? It's the beauty of SaaS. Anyways, the first guy offered us the money, all the money we wanted, the $2 million, for no equity. He just said, I just want a percentage of your number until I get my money back, and then a small percentage, because I think he saw the writing on the wall that we were going to be very successful. And so I immediately said no to that, because I know I'm going to be successful too. And the other 2 dragons were Michael Weckerly and Jim Treliving. Yep. And they were fighting it out on the show. And I said, well, guys, I need you to come in together because I want both your contacts. I don't need your cash, right? $2 million, that was just table stakes. You want people to be in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was like 4% of the company or something, right?
Yeah.
At the time. It was nothing. And so they settled on a deal, $2 million for, I think 5% of the company. So it netted out at a $40 million valuation and $2 million cash. And we shook hands on the show and did the due diligence, and the crazy thing about it, because the show hadn't aired yet, is I turned them down in due diligence. And so that was what blew people's mind more than anything. And we weren't even allowed to talk about it until after the show ran.
I was gonna say, right?
Right. And so I put our entire show, all the publicity we could have earned from the show, et cetera, at jeopardy, because I made the decision that I felt was right for my business. And I said, no, thank you.
So you ended up not going forward with the whole thing.
Correct.
Okay. Yep. Interesting. Yeah.
So it was, because here's the thing, those shows, they're real, right? Like we spent about 2 hours filming that particular episode, and they cut down 15 minutes of it or something for the show, right?
Right.
But there are no retakes. There's no scripts.
Yeah.
There's anything, right? They're real investors with real money. And, you get into it, right? And when you sign a deal, or when you handshake a deal on Dragon's Den, that's just like them, tendering a letter of intent.
Yeah.
If you're in the real investing world, right? You still have to go through due diligence. You create
absolutely.
You got to do all the financial analysis. You have to, spend some time with your partners, etc. And in our case, they just didn't bring enough value, and they wanted us to do. I personally own a lot of real estate, and at the time it had been cross guaranteed, and they wanted me to roll that into the company. And I said, sure, no problem. But there's lots of equity there. So you have to increase the valuation of the company. Right. Right. And they were kind of like, what? And I'm not stupid, man.
That was the thing, man. I was going to ask you, like, I mean, that I guess before learning this, because I didn't know the details to this, was exactly that. I think a lot of people wonder, like, did they take over your business? Are they still involved? How much money did they give you?
Yeah.
No, we changed the world. Were they just an injection, or did they just like sort of, laissez-faire? But I guess we just answered all of that stuff. Like they're not.
Yeah, it was one of the hardest emails at the time because
100%. I can't imagine.
$1
I
million
don't want to
cash.
connect with you guys.
Yeah, like $2 million cash when you're sub 10 million in sales is a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And it was a really, really hard email to write. And mainly it wasn't even the cash. It was the fact that I felt like I could be missing out on this massive promotional opportunity and partnership opportunity, my show might never air, and so it was tough.
I can imagine, man, and I can see both ends of the sword. I can't imagine how difficult that email was to put out there. Just it's one of those where you're like, I just work, and all of a sudden, wait a second. But I mean, there's a lot of times too, though, where you got to do the due diligence on that. And this does come back to reading the I's and the T's and looking at it all and really understanding what this thing involves, rather than just getting excited about it and moving on. So then, where did that roll into the whole thing with Barbara Corcoran with Shark Tank? Like, are those two things married in any way, or?
No, not at all. But I mean, there's a lesson in leverage there.
Yeah.
So I met Barbara Corcoran through Matt Wagner, the radio and television experts, and she was actually already a client of mine.
Doing like REW stuff.
Built her website. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So she was already a client. So I had that advantage. But I went to her and I said, "Listen, Barb, the Dragon's Den show is aired now. I've turned them down. We have an opportunity here to take advantage of this press, right?" I said, you and me, we need to partner. I said, I need you. I turned them down because they're not the right partner, but you might be. And so her and I got together and I said, listen, you've got the name, you've got the face in real estate. Like she was real estate specific.
Yeah, totally.
It was US based. So she was had a lot more exposure than, because Dragon's Den in Canada is really well known. It's the #1 show in Canada, but Canada's pretty small.
Yeah.
Most of my customers are in the US, right?
Yeah.
And you can't even watch Dragons Den in the US, which is annoying because there's some sort of embargo. But I said, I want you to take over the deal. I said, straight terms, $50 million valuation, just like they had, give me whatever, give me some number of cash just so people take you seriously. And she's like, yeah, I'll do that deal. And obviously there was a lot more to it than that. There was lots of whining and dining and salesmanship and stuff like that. And, but at the end of the day, when we got into it, I again realized there was no reason, and I didn't have this plan, but as I went through the process and the amount of complexity of the process, I realized, and I think we both realized, there was no reason for her to give me cash. And there's no reason necessarily for her to even buy equity, right? So what we ended up doing was we ended up doing a partnership deal where we launched a product called the Barbara, and she basically had a stake in the product.
I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Right? So for every Barbara we sold, she got money, right? And a decent chunk of money, right? A good percentage, right? And so it was a win-win, and it was the most successful real estate website we've ever made and we've ever sold. So she did very well. We did very well. I didn't dilute my company at all. And I got to learn a lot. I got to spend a lot of time with her. She came on the road with us and spoke at some of our conferences and whatnot. And it's just one of those things. I mean, was there any problem with the other deal? No. This deal made more sense.
But that's what it sounds like. You actually, I mean, maybe the way I just rolled those two things together, but you really, like, you took it to the right place, at least optically from what I'm seeing here. It's almost, you don't see the writing on the wall with the first one, but you saw an opportunity there. How can we take that opportunity and spin it into an even better opportunity?
But I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't plan it that way.
No. And no, I can tell that though, which is good, right? But it's strategic though, man. It's again, it's being forward thinking.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm going to bring to that is that's a positive mindset, right? That's a completely different mindset than getting shut out, being upset and going, I just lost. Well, I'm going to throw my hands in the air. I'm going to go sulk in a corner for days or weeks or months, or just stop everything I'm doing and change gears. And again, here, I'm going to boil it down to as simple as not getting the listing, not having your offer accepted for the folks that are listening. Like, this is one of those things where, hell, I'm going to get even simpler. My guys yesterday, they lost their semifinal hockey game. They're 8-year-olds, right? How do you think they were feeling when they lost that? Heads down? No, the only thing coach was yelling was get your chin up. And then I was at the door. I ran to the change room to have that door open, give them all high fives, slap, clap in, big smile. Way to go, guys. Congratulations, semifinals.
Yeah.
They got a whole season ahead of them, right? We need them to stay ahead, good spirits, be happy, excited. Coming back to business, the same type of idea. Look at what you can learn from it and keep moving forward.
Well, and again, take it to the 80-20 rule. I think we'll come back to this a lot. We get to that negotiation table, right? We hope for that deal. And quite frankly, this happened to me last week. I had a deal on the table. I thought I did. We all get our hopes up. And that was a lot of work, right? And something changed in the industry, right? And a lot of press was around it. And, some personnel changed. You can guess who that is and what was happening all you like. But the reality is that deal doesn't make sense anymore for that particular group. And no fault of my own, but I lost that particular opportunity in the way it was supposed to be.
Right.
Right. That's the 20%. Okay.
That's right.
Getting to build those relationships with those people at the chief executive level, having the ability to get to that table in the first place is the 20%. So just because that didn't work the way I wanted it to work, if I stop now, I'm not going to win. I get to do 4 times that much work to try to figure out how to close that deal in a different way.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe it's with different people. And the first thing I do is I go, you know what? Okay, who's in charge now? What's changed? I need to make sure I've got relationships with those people. I need to call them and I need to be like, listen, I know you just started yesterday, but I'd love to be there if you need me, when you need me, kind of thing. And now I've got fucking 3 more years of work to do with these people.
It's right. You're right. This comes back to, again, what you said there before, was you sort of do this little bit, but there's 4 times the amount of work that has to happen from it. It's circling back again. Don't be complacent. Keep moving forward. What can you learn from this experience? How can you take it to that next level?
Don't let that loss kill you, because it's not even a loss. It's
oh
just
my God, man.
journey, right?
I've said it many times. I'll say it again right here. Today is a new day. Whatever happened 5 minutes before we started today's web podcast, or whatever happened yesterday, cannot affect what is going to happen ahead of us right now.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a big message that I just took from that. So now fast forward on all this stuff. And I mean, that is some impressive stuff, Morgan. I mean, congratulations to you on all those different things. But I can already tell from you, it's kind of that, yeah, it's cool. I like it, but like I've still got so much further to go, right? Which is amazing. Yeah. I love the attitude on that. So REW, we've talked a lot about this today, but we haven't necessarily defined it. The world's largest custom development shop specific to real estate.
Yeah.
What does that mean? How does it help realtors? And essentially, sort of the piggyback on that, the second part of that question is like, what is your difference, that USP?
Yeah. So, we are one of the first vendors that would today be defined as platform as a service, right? And there's a bunch of good ones, right? There's Real Estate Webmasters, there's Boomtown, there's Commissions Inc., there's, Moxie Works, et cetera. There's a lot of really great people who we consider competitors and friends in our industry. And we're all what they call platform as a service. So basically, it's the fundamentals of your online business. It's your CRM, it's your website, it's your IDX, et cetera. And, each of us has our own flavors, each of us has our own culture, and people might pick one or the other because of those things. But the happy accident, and again, this was not on purpose. And I actually,
accident, I like that.
Well, in hindsight, I wouldn't have built my business this way because I didn't understand about valuations and multiples and SaaS and all that sort of stuff. I started my business focusing on high quality, focusing on unique, and focusing on just the top 5% of the market. Right. And so what we do that's different is we've always been an agency, right? We're in the professional services business. So we do custom design, custom programming, custom content, et cetera. And all those other companies, they don't do that for a good reason. And that reason is, one, it's almost impossible to scale professional services.
Scalability, yeah.
Right. And two, because of that, there's no money in it. There's no valuation, there's no multiples, and there's no profit. Right. And so you'd be crazy. Anyone, if they're asking me today, should I get into the professional services business? I'd say no, because you have to sell that hour every time. And it's a 1x multiple. You don't get scale with that. Right. But we became really good at professional services at scale on top of a platform as a service. Right. And so the differentiator, the reason we're the world's largest custom entity, is because we can offer you 60,000 hours of professional services in a year, right? Most people don't even have that much engineering in their entire company.
Right.
Most people don't even have that many people in their entire company.
Yeah.
Right. And so for us, we kind of look at it now as a cost of marketing, right? We don't make very much money on professional services. In fact, a lot of times we lose money on professional services because sometimes projects take longer and sometimes, it's a tough business, and having to sell those hours, people always do the math and they go, well, you charge this much per hour, you must be making this much money. Yeah. If we got paid for every single hour that every single person worked, but you're lucky if half of those hours ever get billed. Right? You got people sitting on the sidelines because they're not a match for the particular project, or because you haven't sold out and you got to keep your key people busy, or there's all kinds of reasons why professional services really sucks as a business. But it also became our differentiator because we crossed the chasm. Now we actually have so much demand that we're able to keep our people engaged and happy with good projects. We're able to continually invest in their education. There's things you just couldn't do at a small scale that we can do at a big scale. And so it gives us this nice little bubble of protection that we're one of the only companies in the world who can do what we do. And honestly, nobody wants to get in our business. We talk to our competitors and they're like, man, you can have it. Right? Because we don't try to do that.
Man, with the kit stuff, I mean, we do a lot of customization, the variable data, all that stuff. We've sat down. I mean, when you look at content writing, and I can say that from a kits aspect, when we're doing, copy, let's say a newsletter for the realtors, there's over 675 variations of that in a month. The amount of content and design and visuals, graphics that have to be put together for that stuff, and then different brands. And you know what? We have found a niche, though, to be able to do that for people rather than go, here's the cookie cutter, take this or leave it. We've been able to scale that in some way. But yes, I guess what I'm saying is I totally understand the customization around that. I totally understand the hours that get put into it that sometimes you don't get back. But at the same time, we're really serving a customer base, both of us, that people are looking, going, you know what, I can get kind of what I want there. It can look the way I want, feel the way I want, and ultimately they're getting what they want. They're happy people. Now you got to service them, right? But they're happy.
You got to figure out, I mean, on the customer side, you have to service them. You have to figure out scale, because you have to be able to grow to that demand. But the other side, that, you know, the dirty underbelly of this whole thing, what happens when you're a 10-person shop and trying to scale, and 3 of your people get together because they all became friends, and they go, you know what, let's go start our own thing.
Yeah, right.
You just lost 30% of your staff and 30% of your revenue. But if they were 30% of the good, like your top performers, you probably lost 60% of your revenue in a day, because they just decided, you know what, we don't want to follow your culture, your lead. We want to go start our own thing. You know, like, there's massive risk when your dollars depend on people. People can get sick. People can get hit by a bus. People can have personality challenges, and you can have to ask them to leave, right? When your business depends on professional services, it's a tough business.
You know what? I think when it depends on people, and you are a business owner, like yourself, like myself, like we've got, you know, the team leader that's listening to this, the broker manager, the broker owner listening to this, the agent who wants to scale their business listening to this, it does come down to people.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, the way you said it, though, you can tell you're right there. You've been building this thing since what, as you said, because it is so much based on what kind of things are you going to get from people? What are you going to get from your team? And I would say much the same. I am incredibly grateful, because I am not here where I am today without an amazing team of people. I'm just a talking head at that point.
Yeah. How are you going to give enough back to them that they'll stay?
Oh man. And it's, you got to be grateful for these people every single day. So, you know, so REW then being what it is, in terms of website, it's not, I want to say it's a website company, but it seems like there's just so much more to it.
Yeah,
just being a website company.
Yeah, the website is what you see.
Yeah,
right? The website the website is your portal. It's your entry point, right? But we're their hosting company, we're their CRM company, we're their IDX company, we're their marketing company, we're their graphic design company, we're their branding company, etc. We offer all of those services, right? And so there's really what we've always said ever since the beginning, and our mantra will probably never change. Your only limitations are your budget and your imagination, right?
Yeah,
and that's a place that not everybody needs to be, but for those very few people, that top 1% kind of thing, where they're so frustrated because even though most of these flavors can offer them most of what they need, they want something special and they can't get it. And that's what Real Estate Webmasters offers, is we can build you Zillow if you want.
Yeah.
So we've got the engineering talent, you know, we've got the design capabilities, etc. Right? Like, it's going to cost you a hell of a lot of money to
buddy,
what's your best shot?
You are a powerhouse. So tell me this then. We're going to be seeing each other very, very shortly. Actually, in a few hours, like tomorrow or Wednesday at 1C21 in Victoria, BC. I'm incredibly excited. I'm going to be emceeing the event for 3 days. I know you've got some big stuff you're going to be talking about on stage. Excited to announce you on stage there. It's no secret that you know, you've got, I guess, that connection with C21. I don't want to let too much out of the bag here, because I know we got some big announcements this week that we got to let out. But, you know, is there anything you can share with us based on what we were just saying around what REW does and all the capabilities it's got to what you and C21 are actually doing together?
Yeah, well, it's public knowledge. It's been published. So Real Estate Webmasters was hired to rebuild the entire brand in Canada. So basically the online portion. So like their marketing center and their CRM and their websites and their IDX and all that stuff that we do. We have about 11,000 customers with Century 21 here in Canada. So every brokerage gets the Real Estate Webmasters platform. Every agent gets the Real Estate Webmasters platform. We're about to launch in this quarter the national century21.ca or c21.ca website. So we're really excited to showcase that. Obviously the members will see it, and the agents and the brokers and the attendees will see it before it goes public. But yeah, we're really excited to be launching. It's actually our largest build in history. It's almost 30,000 hours.
Well, I haven't seen everything, but I've gotten to peek behind the curtains, and it looks amazing, man. It looks really, really cool, really slick, really today, even call it tomorrow. I mean, it's certainly there and seems easy. Well, I mean, that's important too, right? Especially in the digital age. And I mean, you'd know better than most. what you built today
Well,
is almost old tomorrow, right? Like it's keeping up with the times.
It's funny that particular pitch will go down in history, I think, as the cheesiest line I've ever delivered, because one of my lines when I was pitching Century 21 was, technology is so good, they'll call you Century 22. And, looking back, it was.
So did they all look at you and go, okay, all right?
I got a few laughs. Yeah.
Here, so staying on that number though, 21. Share with me. You've been very involved in donations, and I know that you like to sort of participate in a lot of good causes. One thing I had the good fortune to be a part of again 2 years ago when we were in Quebec together for their conference was a donation that you sort of put forth that was really tied to the Easter Seals campaign that they're involved with. Share a little bit more. We talked about this briefly off air before we got started today. Tell us a little bit more about that, because I think that's some really, really. I mean, I remember my jaw was dropped when I brought you up that day just before the band got on. We talked about that stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that was really awesome, man.
Yeah. So, one of the good fortunate things that I think has happened to business over the last 20 years is this whole concept of people, planet, and profits. Right. Understanding that if you want to build a really great business, you need to focus on the people and the relationships, right? And obviously, the planet part is a part that's not relevant to the Easter Seals thing, but the relationships, they're based on trying to get to understand what really matters to your customer. Not the ROI, not the money. Everyone wants to make money. Everyone wants to, that's the profits part, right? But the people part, when you get to know your customers, you get to hear what's important. And for Century 21, they have basically adopted Easter Seals as their charity for like the last 20 years. They've donated millions and millions of dollars. And so for us, in getting to know what is now our largest customer in Canada, part of what we want to know is, why is this so important to you? And, I was talking to Barbara, who's their head of marketing, Barbara Corcoran, and she was telling me this story about how people think that the Easter Seals donations are about the camps for them, right? Sending, children with challenges and disabilities to camps. And that's a wonderful experience that they wouldn't necessarily be able to have, because obviously it takes special care and special people and special facilities and whatnot. But she brought something that was totally different that I don't think anyone would ever think about outside, or maybe they would. It's the parents, right? These parents, if you think about this, these parents.
You just made my hair stand up, bro.
Right?
I got kids at home. You just did it.
Let me take you through this, man, because this is what she took me through. She said, these people are lifers, right? Not that we're all not, right? But we, those of us who have wonderful, healthy children, they follow hopefully a traditional path, and they're 18, they go to university, they go off their lives. Hopefully they come back. Parents who have disabled children, they are there for life, and those children are their whole lives. And for them to trust or have an organization that's available like this to be able to get a week off. Imagine a parent who feels like they can never leave their child because they need special care. They can never get a babysitter. You can't phone, and it is absolutely, I mean, we all know parenting is rewarding.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. That's got to be tough at times, to be that stuck.
Yeah.
Feel that stuck, right? And I think it's fair to acknowledge that. And for an organization to be able to give those parents a date night or 5 date nights, because that changes everything.
Buddy, that was massive what you just did there. Because you know what? I have, from when I was involved with it in 2017 in Quebec and being able to introduce and meet Brandon and meet, the ambassadors and the people. I mean, you just literally 2 minutes ago stopped me in my tracks, because you said it's not just about the kids at the camp. And I was kind of going, okay, tell me more. When you said that, I'm going, I got 2 children at home. I know how much work they are. I love them to death. I wouldn't change anything in the world. And I can't wait to get home and see them again when I get home. Right? It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
But stuck. Lifers. That powerful, Morgan. Very powerful, man. It's the connection there is that's on another level. And so you've been donating, you've been very
so to answer your question, it's a pretty easy decision to make.
Yeah.
So our thing is that we obviously sell websites into Century 21's organization, etc. And so leading up to each of the events, we donate the first $21,000 of our sales, 21 because it's Century
Yeah.
21.
Yeah. Not 22.
Yeah, not 22. To the Easter Seals organization.
Yeah.
And so, it's in alignment with Century 21, their agents, their teams, their brokers, their management, they all are already on board raising millions of dollars. And so that allows us to be in alignment with our customers and do something that feels really good for all the reasons we just talked about. So
good on you, man. Good on you.
that's
So I could keep going with you all day, but I know we both have very busy agendas as usual. Before we take off, just real quick, parting words to anybody listening about anything maybe we covered, or some advice, tips, to the realtors, the mortgage brokers, anybody that's in a sales position that is listening to this today. Anything you want to leave off? And I know I'm throwing you like right there. I'm kind of like deer in headlights, but just anything based on what we talked about.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is that we go through growth as people, and we go through growth as business owners, and we make mistakes and we get our ups and downs. But I think fundamentally what I've learned more than anything, and this is now our entire marketing campaign as well, is that relationships matter, right? That's
I love it.
You
I love
focus
it.
on those relationships, even if you lose the customer sometimes. I've got some really great friends who used to be my customers. And you know what? For whatever reason, they needed to move on. Maybe they'll be back, maybe they won't, but they're lifelong friends.
That's,
And,
yeah.
Like that, there's got to be more than just money. There's got to be more than just numbers. And I think the most rewarding thing is those relationships. So I would say, feel free to steal our tagline, feel free to steal our campaign. If you really want to go far and forever, focus on the relationships.
We preach it all the time. This is a relationship business.
Absolutely.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you so much for taking the time. Where can people connect and learn more? Just where can they go if anybody wants to know more?
You know what? I spent all this time from 2004 at realestatewebmasters.com, which is our domain. But at that very same time, I was going after a domain called rew.com. Impossible to get. That guy never got back to us. And so if you want a shortcut, I am very happy to
Yeah,
that just recently we were finally able to acquire rew.com, not .ca.com. And so there's a shortcut. You can go to rew.com.
Congratulations on that. I saw the announcement about that. I don't think that not everybody may understand the scale of that, but when you can get a 3-letter domain that's a .com, that is absolutely massive. So Good on you, man. Congrats.
Pretty exciting. So
thank you again.
All right. Thank you so much, David.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you went to industrysyndicate.com or even mindshare101.com. Wherever you like to consume your content, please rate, review, and subscribe. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at DavidGreenspan101. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thanks, everyone, for listening.